church, you know, everybody's looking at the pastor's kids. They expect them to be a certain way, to behave in a certain way. Did you ever feel like you were under a microscope growing up, that almost everybody is watching you?
Yes, but my father wouldn't allow us to watch any of those.
Oh, wow.
So such music, we weren't listening to that.
Okay.
So partly that was, I think I would.
Right.
Of course, yeah, I've been at a place where I'd say no, but now I think I would.
But wait. You would to what? You marrying a pastor, you becoming a pastor? Welcome to today's episode. Today, we have our guest, Victoria Lwesya. I'm not going to do the introductions. I'll let her introduce herself. So, Vicky, welcome to today's episode. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Dali. I am Victoria Lwesya. I'm a minister. I'm a lover of God.
Okay.
A third born in a family of 4. I work as an operations supervisor at a credit union. And yeah, of course, I'm also a pastor's kid. So
as you've heard, Vicky is a pastor's kid. And in today's episode, we're talking about how it was like for her growing up as a pastor's kid. So many of us know, we have heard so many stories about pastor's kids. Like, oh, this and that. So today we want to hear it from somebody who has grown up in a pastor's house. And Vicky is somebody I've known for quite a while now. And I think for some time I've watched her life and the way that she does things. Personally, I learn so much. I learn a lot. Let me tell you one story one time. We had a prayer camp in this house. So everybody was around and then it was time to sleep. Vicky went on to sleep. She had a very comfortable place. But one of the leaders came to the sitting room and they lied down in the living room. Vicky abandoned her place. She came to the sitting room just to share space with her. And when I asked her why she's doing this, she was like, oh no, it's okay, I'll sleep here. And for me, it registered so much. I'm like, okay, I knew what she was doing. For her, it was a demonstration of honor that, okay, I exalt this person and I cannot be sleeping in the bedroom while they're here. And the same thing, you know what happened? Her brother did the very same thing. He did not go in the bedroom to sleep with the rest of the guys. He was right there in the living room. And for me, I was like, this must be something that they've grown up doing. This is something that they've learned because none of us in the house thought like that. We all went to our comfort places and we left this other person in this living room to sleep there. But Vicky could not do that. And I was just like, wow, this is something I could learn. And another story as well. I see Vicky do so many things in church where she'll be cleaning after people. You know, like the prayer camp, what I'm talking about. You'd find that people are leaving. Some people have just eaten. They're not doing anything. But Vicky stays behind to clean up after everybody. And she does not complain. And that for me, I was like, hey, this is worth learning. There must be something, behind that. And I have seen Vicky give in church, guys. Not because, we have learned in church. You're surprised. I know, I see you. Not like we've learned in church and then, we're shaken that, oh, let me give because the pastor said this. No. But guys, huge amounts of money. If you could just come and give to the Lord. Just like that. And for me, that's someone worth the emulating. That's why today we have Vicky. And I'm so, so hopeful. And I know that we're going to learn so much from her. I know I just given you a lot of pressure. But I know that we're going to learn so much from you. So Vicky, today, please feel free. As I'll be asking you questions.
All right.
And tell us how your experience was. So maybe let me just make things a little lighter. What was your best experience growing up as a pastor's kid?
My best experience?
Yes.
I think I have a lot of best experiences.
Okay.
Well, which one would be the best? I think, I don't know. Do you actually want a specific scenario?
Yeah. Whatever. You can choose one.
Moments that we were doing or moments that were happening.
Whatever. It's fine. But whatever you enjoyed the most.
Okay. I think I enjoyed the times where we would pray together as a family.
Okay.
I think that was just, for me, that was amazing because during those times we'd just sit together and then it wouldn't just be, it was different because it wasn't church, yes, but it was, okay, I would still say that it was church coming back home, but also it was also just the moment where we would share and we would pray together and you'd actually feel that those burdens are being lifted. And it was just amazing because during those moments, you would actually feel that, like it was literally like you just had a place where you would pour out your all maybe in moments where you wouldn't pray on your own, but actually you have this family that's there and you can actually pray together.
Hold on, Vicky, wait.
Yes.
So how old were you when you started enjoying these moments? Because I'm trying to think. Have you always enjoyed these moments of prayer?
No.
Okay. So
Not
how
always.
old were you?
I think to discover that, I started enjoying them, I would say when I was maybe in secondary school, somewhere there.
All right.
Because when I was in primary school, I wouldn't say always, because I didn't like late nights. So you know those moments where they'll say, let's go pray. And you're like,
Yes.
but I want to sleep.
I want to sleep. Okay.
Yes, and they're like, can we just go sleep? And then, But then in secondary school, yes, at least then, the moment where I was now trying to discover Christ on my own, yes, those moments, yes.
All right.
But
so just like I think another question on top of that.
Yes.
When did you get saved?
I got saved. Okay, so it's funny. So let me go back.
Okay.
I think when it has to be somewhere, it was in 2005.
All right.
Yes, I think then I was about
8.
Yes, I think it was about
Wow.
8, somewhere there. I actually went in front for the altar call. So the funny thing is, I didn't actually go there because I was so I was convicted. No, but then I think it was my brother had gone in front the previous day. We had a conference. We had visitors that came over, missionaries that came to minister. So my brother came, had actually given his life. So I actually overheard my father talking with the ministers. And then they're like, I saw Ezra going front to give his life. I'm like, me too. I'll do the same tomorrow.
Let me make my father proud.
Yes, I actually did that. So it was like that. The first time. But then to actually be serious now about my walk with Christ, I remember that was when I was in Form 1.
Okay.
Yes, so when I was in Form 1, I remember a certain guy came in to minister. So I think that's when I was like, But then I don't think that time it was a serious conviction that I did there, or a confession that I made in front there. So then I remember in when I was in Form 1, that's when I actually gave my life to Christ.
Okay, nice. Form 1. I'm trying to remember what I was doing in Form 1. But anyway. So I know how growing up in a church, everybody's looking at the pastor's kids. They expect them to be a certain way, to behave in a certain way. Did you ever feel like you were under a microscope growing up, that almost everybody is watching you?
Partly, yes, I would say so.
Okay.
Partly, not really. I would say partly because, yes, it's always like that. The expectations are just too high. Yeah. They're just too high.
Okay.
I even remember there was a certain time when we were in secondary school, a certain girl made a certain statement. She was like, she was talking about clothes, of course. She's like, you see, pastors' kids, they're wearing trousers and all that. And then I was like, hey, I wear trousers. I should stop. I remember then I stopped because I heard her say pastor's kid. And then I was like, what are they going to think about me or my father? That maybe they're not training us well. That my parents are not training us well. So there was always like that. Hey, pastors' kids are not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to do that. But then we were also children like everybody else. So the bar was just too high, just too high. Like there were a lot of expectations. But on the other end, I thank God for my parents. In as much as we were like that, but they still allowed us to grow and also discover things on our own. So when we were home, yes, the expectation was there, but it wasn't as much as it was outside. Okay. So partly I would say when we were home, we were still children as we were supposed to. Or maybe that's how pastors' children are supposed to grow. Like, I don't know. But at home, the expectation wasn't that much. They were allowing us to grow and discover ourselves or discover Christ as they were assisting us. But it wasn't as much as it was outside.
Okay. So how does that look like when you say that your parents were assisting you, like to discover Christ, discover yourself, and also allow you to grow as children? Like, what did that look like?
Okay. How should I put it? Okay. So back home, it wasn't like they were that bar that because you're pastor's kids, you're supposed to do this. Like these strict restrictions for us at home. Like, okay, you're supposed, at church, you just have, whether you like it or not, you have to be part of a certain team. Whether you like it or not, you have to serve like this, like that. No, they were like helping us in a way to say, okay, if you want to be part of this, you can also be part of this. But if you are not up to it, okay, wait, and then discover and then be part of this. Okay. Yes. That's so good. That was really something like that. They never really pressured us that much at home. Yeah.
Okay. So did you ever feel like at a point where your parents are more dedicated to church than you? Because I see a lot of people say that, oh, most pastors' kids, they go wayward because the pastor is more dedicated to the church and not their kids. Or maybe the pastor is more dedicated to other members of the church, like maybe solving their issues or whatever, anything else that it might be, than concentrating on you guys. Did you ever feel like that? Or do you think it was well balanced?
There were moments I felt like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was always well balanced. No. There were moments I felt like that. I remember there was a certain time, my father was traveling a lot.
Yeah.
He was traveling a lot. We would rarely see him at home.
Yeah.
So he was only home during weekends, like maybe on Saturdays. So on Sunday, everybody would see him at church, but we would know he wasn't home during the week.
Yeah.
So, but then one thing that I thank God that my parents did was when we were young, my mom really tried, I don't know if they had discussed, I don't know. Now, I think it's a question I should ask them. But one thing we saw them do was, let's say they're going for a conference, maybe it's far away or somewhere that it's the distance. When we were young, my mom would not travel.
Okay.
So we would stay back with my mom, but my dad would travel.
Yeah.
So I think my mom was just that glue that was trying to help us in those moments to say, okay, we are still here for you guys. So at first I was always like, Mom, why are you like that? I see a lot of pastors' wives, they support their husbands. Why don't you go with him? And then she was always like, no, I have to stay back with my children for this moment.
Yeah.
So I think that also really helped a lot because that my mom acted as a glue to the home, and that really helped us. But in a moment where I would feel, that is never really around, you know, but it really helped. So
that's so good. Did you ever grow resentful towards your dad? Say, why are you always helping others? Why are you always away and you're never here?
I'd say, there were moments, but I think he would also find his own way to make it up for us. Yes. He would always find his way to do that. But to be so much resentful that he wasn't around, I wouldn't say I felt that a lot. I felt that a lot. No, I wouldn't say I felt that a lot. Because every time he would come, I think maybe because mom was around, so she would try to talk things to us. Like, okay, so this is why it's supposed to be like that. So you'd always go like, okay, that understanding to say. And when he comes back, he's trying to make up for the time that he wasn't around. So it was always that good.
Okay, that's so good. Back to my phone. Let's see. Okay. So, like, I've seen your brother. Like, you guys are in church.
Yes.
You know, I see other pastors' kids. They don't want anything to do with the faith. It's either that I hurt or maybe I just don't know. I just never get it. But I see you and your siblings. Seemingly, I would say, for me, that's how it seems, that you guys are in church and that you're grounded and you have your own, should I call it path? Like you found your own identity. It's not you're staying in church because of your parents. But I see you and I'm like, no, this girl knows Jesus for herself. Would you say that being a pastor's kid ever shaped that? Did it ever help you in any way to like shape your faith? Or this was totally different from that, like totally separate?
I would say yes, it did.
Okay.
It's not like there were moments I didn't. When growing up, there were moments I didn't want to be in church.
Yeah.
Like literally, I would go to church, but I don't want to hear my father preach. I've had those moments.
Why?
I think there were days.
Yeah.
Well, in some way, I would say at home, I think I would. Yeah, I was a rebel sometimes. So it would always be maybe. So he has actually talked to me, and maybe a little whip sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm angry, and then whether you like it or not, we still have to go to church. So I have to go to church and I have to listen to this man who yesterday was talking sense to me. But because I'm at that place where I don't want to hear that, I go to church just because I'm supposed to be in church, not because I want to be in church. So even though I was going there, that place, you know, where you're at a place where if you don't want to be there, but you're there. But even as you are there, you're still hearing. You're still hearing about Christ, and so that was really helping us. And even there were some restrictions that we had at home. For example, like let's say at home we had these programs. There was music splash and all that. Yes. But my father wouldn't allow us to watch any of those.
Oh, wow.
So such music, we weren't listening to that.
Okay.
So partly that was helping us because we were still like we had we were being directed to a path in a way that, okay, this is not right. You have to go to this way.
Yeah.
So it was, I would say, yes, it did help me shape my identity.
That's good.
Even as I discovered Christ on my own, but it still helped us. That was also the foundation of, that it was also a foundation for me to find my identity in Christ.
That's so good. My next question was going to be, did you ever rebel against your father? So you've said yes, you're a rebel at some point. But like now on the faith part, like have you ever had those moments where you're disagreeing with your father? Like, I know the Bible, or you're getting to like, no, that's not what the Bible says. I know you as my father, or you're saying that this is what the Bible says. But did you ever have those moments?
I don't think I've ever had such a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think if should I say? But no. But anytime that I would have something that I'm confused about, I would still go to him and we'll talk about it.
Oh, that's good.
So that was a very good thing, because I've always been so open to my father, actually even more than my mom. So I think that actually just helped me a lot, because I can freely talk to him as a friend, and I wasn't scared talking to him. That was I think that was also that helped us a lot to grow in a way where we were still comfortable growing up as us, because he's someone that you can freely talk to. So that really helped a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's so good. And my next question is, I know in a church setting, there's always gossip. Some people are gossiping about the pastor. Some, that pastor, why does he do this? Did you ever have that growing up? Like hearing what people are saying about your father or your parents?
Yes.
Okay.
I've heard stories about, and I don't know if it's a good thing, but for them, let's say someone has done something or they have said something about them. You know how sometimes church politics is. So let's say they have said something about him, or I wouldn't hear it from him. Like my parents wouldn't sit down and discuss, this person did this to us. We would actually hear it from people outside. And they would never say it. And I'm always like, oh, okay. I don't know if they were just trying to cover us, not to have any hurt for anyone. But you would still see that they would still talk to that person the same way they would do with everyone. And you wouldn't think, and you're like, maybe, and it was us who were like, you were supposed to be angry at this person, angry at this person. Like I remember there was a time, I remember there was an issue that happened at church. So the same things were here, this happened, this person did this to your father. So I actually thought, my father would never talk to that person again. Then this other day, my mom comes home together with my dad. And they tell us, we went to visit this certain person. I was like, you went to visit this certain person? Didn't this person do this and that? So I'm talking to my mom, since you know how moms can actually share some things that fathers cannot. So I was like, actually went to visit this person. So she's like, yeah, we went to visit. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, next time when you're going, I also want to go. Because for me, I've always been someone, I need to see it. I need to see it. And then the next visit we go to, I even see my parents, they're carrying a bag of maize to that particular person. And then we go to visit that person and we're talking. I'm like, did actually that happened? And it was a very big issue that actually that person left the church. It was something else. It was very big. And for them to do that, I was like, wow. So these guys, they are actually practicing what they preach, forgiveness. And then after all what this person did, and everybody knew that this person did this, but they still had to do that. So I was just trying to explain on that part where there were certain things we would hear from other people, but they would never speak about those things to us. Maybe they were trying to shield us not to, you know how when you hear a bad story of someone, it just clouds your judgment, and you always have that perception of that person that's not right. So
what about you hearing directly a person talking some trash about your parents?
I don't really remember someone talking to me directly like that, because I think if someone was ever going to say that, I would defend my parents right away. But someone talking directly to me, no, I think I've always avoided such. If I'm ever at that place where I know that this person is going to speak something that I would not like it, I would just move away.
Do you think, for example, your parents are in the wrong, and you can see it? How would you handle that?
That they have done it in public, or maybe it's just says something.
Or maybe in public, or something. I don't know what example I'd give. but people are really speaking about it, or you actually know, oh, well, yeah,
That's bad.
that's bad.
I think in such moments, at that particular moment, it's hard for you to go. Maybe they've done it in front.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to actually go in front and say, hey, Dad, you're not supposed to do that. You just look at it and they're like, okay.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
Yes. But then afterwards, would still go back and tell him and say, hey, that wasn't supposed to be said in church.
Okay.
That wasn't supposed to be done in church. Like I said, the good thing is we're able to talk with our parents freely.
Yeah.
So that was also, yes, there have been moments like that where something like that happened, maybe in public as well. And you're like, was that necessary?
Was that necessary? Yeah.
That wasn't necessary. And then, we'd go back. So the good thing is, if all of us would gang up, me and my siblings would gang up and tell him that, I think that was actually hitting my father hard and say, hey, I think this is really something that I wasn't supposed to do. But if it's just one of us, sometimes maybe he'll just take it lightly.
Overlook, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's so good. And I think the other thing now is, I know being a pastor's kid, everybody knows you, you understand? And were there some perks of being a pastor's kid where you're like, hey, I'm the pastor's kid?
Well, let me say, yeah, there were moments like that, Sometimes I think the thing where almost everybody knows you. It was really amazing. And now that I'm away from home, and when I go and people don't know me, I'm like, hey,
how don't you know me?
How can this happen?
Yeah.
Yes, How can this happen? That you don't know me. You're supposed to know me. I'm the apostle's kid. Yes. So something like that.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of advantages because people would come through for you, even in moments you weren't expecting, because they're like, we know this person is a child of this person.
Can you give an example of one moment where somebody came for you?
What example would I give then? Let me now search for an example.
Okay. All right, it's fine. So continue, dear. On that. Okay. So,
advantage.
What about the disadvantages? Were there some things where you're like, oh goodness, I wish I wasn't a pastor's kid?
Oh yeah, an advantage. So another advantage. I think there was this the advantage where there were times where when ministers would come and they would stay over at our place. So I remember there was a certain time there came this other man of God. So that time I really wanted a prophecy, or I just wanted someone to speak over something on my life. Yes. Yeah. So for me, I felt that as an advantage, because what actually that happened that time was that after that person had ministered, when he came back home, he prayed for all of us.
Yeah.
And what he was, and I remember the prayers, and even now I remember, because then I think that was 2015.
Yeah.
I still remember that word that I received at that moment. And it's just something that I wanted to hear at that moment. Yes.
Nice.
And so for me, that was an advantage to say, because I'm in this house. If I wasn't in that house, I don't think that man would have spoken. That man of God would have spoken over my life like that. So for me, that was an advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about disadvantages? Something like, I wish I was not a pastor's kid. No.
I think the disadvantages would come in when you were sharing at the beginning.
Yeah.
At first, I saw them as disadvantages, but now I still see them as learning points that God was training me to. So there were moments when we would have visitors. I remember there was a time when we were young, almost every morning around 5 or 6, we would hear someone knock at the door. So we didn't really actually have that privacy.
Yeah. With family.
Yes.
Oh goodness.
Actually, I would say we grew up in a place where we always had people around, which is sometimes a good thing, but sometimes it's not really a good thing because the privacy is not really there. And so even as early as 5 a.m., we would have people knock at the door. And even, so and sometimes we'd sleep late because maybe we had visitors.
Yeah.
And then there were visitors, there are a lot of plates. We need to clean all those plates.
Is that where you learned cleaning after everybody and sacrificing your space?
Yes, we just got used to it. We're like, So, when I go at a place and then I see that happen, I always remember and say, there were moments in which there were people that could help us. And so because I'm always at that place where that moment I wanted someone to help me. Now I can be at a place where I can help someone.
Also help. That's so good.
And also there were moments where now visitors have come in, we have to squeeze in the rooms. So it was really something like that. So, and also I think there were moments where I wished my dad was doing something else and not just pastoring.
Yeah.
Because where you're introducing yourself to your friends and they're like, what does your father do? Everyone's saying, my father, maybe he's a doctor. Or maybe he's something. For me, how can you say my father is a pastor? That's not even a profession.
That's what it does. Oh, goodness. Yeah.
But then I was like, So it was hard to say my father doesn't work. It actually felt like my father doesn't work when I was growing up. But then later on, now I'm growing, I'm like,
So I see. Okay.
It was really something else.
All right. Okay. So moving on. Did you ever feel the pressure to walk in your father's steps, like to pursue ministry? I don't know if that's the right word. Do we pursue ministry? But anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Did I have the pressure? I don't know. Maybe because I'm a girl, I never really had that much pressure.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I think I should ask my brother that question. But for me, I never really had that pressure. But then I think there were, those things where you can start doing certain things because other people are telling you, you're doing this thing. Okay, so I'll give this example. So when growing up, I would love to go with my father at church. We would go together to church. So we would take walks together, go together to church. So usually I would go with him.
Yeah.
And so because I would go with him a lot, I think in one way or the other, I learned a lot from him. And I didn't know that I had some traits that he also had. And then other people would go like, you're going to be a pastor. Those things. Yeah. And then the pressure now of like, being a pastor and all that. But sometimes, okay, I would like the idea and all that because I would see how he was always there for people. Yeah. But also on the other part, I'm like, okay, and all that. So I think in some way people would go like, you're supposed to do this and that. Yes, there was, but from him, I don't think he ever did that to say, you just have to do this and all that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So as you've said, you've grown up as a pastor's kid, like being in church and everything, your parents helping you, to navigate all of that and become who you are. But at what point, and can you say that you develop your own sense of calling and purpose? Because I see you today and I can say that Victoria has a relationship with Christ. Like from myself, I can look at you and say that. I can say that and not say that this is, he's just living under the shadow of his parents. But she has a relationship with Christ. So like when did you develop your own sense of calling or purpose?
Right. I believe that happened when we were, so after I had written my first Form 4 exams, so I did not do well. Right. So I went to repeat at a boarding school. So when I went there, I remember I had started now in Form 3. Okay. So I was kind of mad that, God, why did you allow me to repeat and all that? So I was like, I'm going there. I won't make any friends. I'll just go do school and come back with good points.
And come back, yeah.
Yes. So that was just it. I had made up my mind. I was going there just to do school and I wasn't going to make friends. So I actually went in the middle of the second term. So I went there. I was doing that, literally doing that. Then God just gave me these friends. They just loved me. Yeah. Those people that would just love you. They're always so concerned about you. Hi, Vicky. Maybe because they were always seeing me all alone. Because what I was doing was after class.
Is this Lona?
Yes. After class, I would just go after prep. I would go on my bed, sleep, or maybe I'm writing some notes because I was already behind and doing all that. But then I remember. So now, what happened was after 2 weeks, we were gathering at a place. We would pray together, just as students on Sundays. We weren't going out to church, so we would meet together, and sometimes a pastor from outside would come to minister to us. So I remember, was it after attending 2 Sundays, then the third Sunday, I had gone to see a certain cousin of mine who was sick. Then I was called back to go to the church. When I was called back to go to the church, they said they had selected a new leadership for now to lead the congregation. Yeah. And then I got there, they mentioned my name as a chairperson. And I'm like, you guys barely know me. How can you choose me? Yeah. I've just been here for like 2 weeks and this is my third, if not, it was I think my third, if not fourth week. How can you choose me? And then I stood there and I just looked at them. I didn't say anything. Yeah. And then I remember one of the teachers was like, Victoria, I'm looking at you, and they're like, why have they chosen me? take this as God and all that. So you know how those encouraging words, I was like, okay, I'm not so sure about this. But then, so I now started praying about it.
Okay.
And God started giving me courage because I was like, God, is this really you? Now I was like, I want to be hearing you for myself.
Yeah, not from other people.
Yes, that is this really you? So we started this. So together with the ones that so we would go every Saturday to clean the place because Sundays would go for church.
Yeah.
So I remember this other Saturday, we were cleaning the place. Then we started singing.
Yeah.
Then after that singing, we just started saying, okay, ladies, let's start praying for tomorrow's service. And then we started praying for tomorrow's service. And then we're like, we just had a very sweet moment, sweet fellowship with the Holy Spirit. And since that time, we started saying, okay, every Saturdays we'll be meeting to pray for tomorrow's service.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Wow.
We started doing that. So every Saturday we'd go pray. And of course, at first it was just leaders, but anyone who was also coming to clean. So we'd pray every Saturday and then Sunday for the service. So we developed that. And I remember, I think that was even the most I fasted because then we'd even do 24 hours every Saturday.
And you were in secondary school?
Yes. I did that the most part of my Form 4.
Goodness.
We would fast every Saturday. So I believe that moment, it was a moment where God was just stretching me.
Yeah.
And it was a moment where I would now pray on my own. I would just pray and just seek the face of God and say, because now I was at a place where I feel like it was a leadership that I wasn't even expecting. But in some way, it was a place for growth for me. Because like, I don't know these people, God.
Yeah.
I don't know these people. So you helped me to lead these people.
Yeah.
And so it was really at that moment where I really developed that relationship with God.
I'm trying to remember what I was doing in Home 4. Goodness. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something. I'm trying to remember, like, what was I doing in Form 4? I was busy in discos dancing. But we praise the Lord.
Yes.
All right. That's so good. So now, as we're approaching the end of this episode, I just want to ask on behalf of somebody struggling, like as a pastor's kid, with the challenges that you've mentioned and maybe some of the perks, and this was some of the advantages that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them, like just general advice to like a pastor's kid?
Okay. All right. I think I would mention a number of things. One, on the expectations. Because the expectations are always high.
Yeah.
And the society as well, even not just the church, but the society as well, the expectations are just so high. One thing I would say is that develop a relationship with God. Find Christ on your own.
All right.
Because the moment you find Christ on your own, it will no longer just be about you going to church or you serving in church because you're doing it. Yes, you're doing it for your pastor or you're doing it for your father, or your mother, just to please them.
Yeah.
Because you cannot, you don't have to live to please other people.
Yeah.
You have to live to please God. And
sorry, guys.
Keep going. Sorry.
you have to live to please God. And so everything that you're doing, it has to be all about Christ and not about you. Because when you discover Christ on your own, it will no longer be about, now what will my parents think?
Yeah.
Or what will this person think? It will now just be about you and Christ. And also another thing, one thing I think I would say now for me, but I would also say it for the same pastor's kid, to say, for me, I feel like when I was younger, I think I would have served more with my father.
Okay.
Because now I'm no longer serving in the same church with him now, where he is. But I would have loved if I had served more with him. Because now I can serve more with him because I'm not at the church where he is at now.
Why do you feel so? Like, why do you think that would have been important, like serving with him?
I think it would have been so much important because I would have assisted him in ways that actually in the service that I do now, I feel like I would have done it better when I was with him as well. But I never really did that. I always felt like I'm going to church and I'm done and all that. Yeah. And also another thing that I would encourage is to say, this is preparation.
Yeah.
It's something that God is preparing you for the next level. Okay. You might not necessarily know that why is this stage happening right now, but there is a reason for this preparation. I love the story of Joseph, where I usually say that, when Joseph was taken, when his brothers had actually sold him, and he had gone to the prison and to all those things that were happening to him. Maybe he did not know that that was part of his preparation before he's going to be that big person, closer to the king and all that. So this is a preparation, a stage of preparation. Take this as preparation. You are in a home where you know that there are days where maybe food is not enough.
Yeah.
God is preparing you to say, when you go to a certain place and you find a pastor, you have to give.
Yeah.
You have to give and say, if at our home there were days that we slept like this, I don't want my pastor to ever suffer like that. It's also a stage of preparation to say, okay, if this was happening at our home, this shouldn't happen to another person's home. So God is training you for that. So it might not necessarily mean that you're also going to be a pastor or something like that. Maybe, and don't even be under pressure to say, this is what I'm supposed to do and all that. But if it's your calling, that's okay. But sometimes it might not necessarily be that God is calling you specifically to the same ministry that your parents were into. But whatever God is calling you to, He's preparing you to say, okay, you've been at this place, so now you can assist those that are at that place and help them also.
That's so good.
So yeah,
that's nice.
I think
that's the advice. Okay. Would you yourself marry a pastor or become one yourself? With with experience and everything else.
I think I would.
Okay, that's a first. Almost every pastor's kid I meet, every PK, they're like, nope, I am not letting my kids go through that, and I'm not doing that for the second time. That's so good. That's so good.
I think I would.
Right.
Of course, I've been at a place where I'd say no, but now I think I would.
But wait. You would do what? You marrying a pastor, you becoming a pastor yourself?
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, sister, you love the That's so good. Okay. All right. So now, I think this is the final question. No, wait, two more.
Yeah.
First, would you mention any embarrassing moment that you had, like a PK, anything embarrassing that you're like, God, that's so embarrassing? Did you have any of those moments?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'd say. But yeah, I think I remember there was a certain time. Of course, maybe, okay. So there was a certain time. There had come some people knocking on our door of another faith that came to minister.
Okay.
Yes. Of another faith that came to minister. So I told them, I gave them an appointment. You can come next week. You find me here.
I don't know why I'm laughing, okay?
I gave them an appointment. You can come next week. And they actually said the actual day. I've forgotten. Was it a Thursday? Yeah. So they actually came on the Thursday. So when they came on the Thursday, they met my father at the door. So they're like, you're here for who? And then they're like, we're here for Victoria. So they're like, from what faith? So they mentioned the faith.
Yeah.
And my father said, no, go away. She's busy. And then he went back inside. He came back. He's like, so you invited those particular people to come and minister to you. I'm like, I just wanted to have to have a discussion with them and also learn from them. No, those people are not welcome here. Yeah. So I believe he was just trying to cover me up. Now, the most embarrassing thing was that he now went to church and he said that in the middle of his sermon. I'm like,
give an example.
Give an example. There was even a time Victoria did this.
And you're like,
In another sermon, he says the same thing. I'm like, but Dad, this is not supposed to be mentioned in church. We talked about this thing and it was done. We go to another session. He mentioned the same. Again. I'm like, why do you keep mentioning this? And it's like, I just want other people to learn from that. No. So even now, I remember a certain friend was like, your father will never get over that story. So
he still mentions it?
I don't know now, but then that was, I think, about some years back when I wasn't even home. And she actually heard about that. She's like, your father mentioned this story in church. So I'm like, okay, anyway. But then, so I don't know if he still mentions it now, but but it was really something else. I just had to do this. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, do you have any last words or anything that you'd like to share? Maybe I didn't ask the question and you feel like, this is very important. I should say it out. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I would share both on the side of the pastors, and also I think I would also talk about on the pastor's kid as well. I think on the one thing that's always a challenge when it comes to one thing that pastors also need to embrace is that in as much as they're serving God as well, they don't have to leave out their children and the process, because at times you you can just have the pressure of service, or maybe serving other people a lot. But then when you come home, you're not doing the same service to your family.
Yeah.
Because you can be so much concerned about maybe helping out other people, but you're not so much concerned about what's going on in the lives of your children. So it's very important, as you're serving the Lord, you also need to be so much involved in the lives of your children. Because what really causes most pastors' kids to be wayward or not wanting to serve together is that thing where they see a different person at the pulpit.
Yeah.
They see another different person at home.
At home.
And they're like, what is this person even preaching?
Yeah.
They're not living it at home.
Yeah.
We know you. This is not what you do at home. So it's very important that as you're serving and you're busy doing the things for the Lord, also when you go back home, you need to make sure that you're getting so much involved in the lives of your children. You get to know what's going on with them. You get to know how maybe they're doing school or whatever they're doing. Why are they pursuing what they're pursuing? There are going to be moments where they're going to not agree with the faith. But you now need to sit them down and say, okay, why are you not agreeing with the faith? As you're praying with them, also talk with them the same way you would talk to a sheep in the church that is going astray. And not just as a child to say, you just have to do this. But you need to be able to sit them down and say, okay, why are you doing this thing? Let's talk this thing through. Get them through the Bible and say, okay, so this is the word of God, and allow them to grow together and allow them to grow in the way of the Lord as well. For a pastor's child, I would say it's not always easy growing up in a pastor's home. Moments where, like I said, moments where you're squeezed in your rooms because you're having visitors, you don't see privacy. It's always a busy home, and you're always like, okay.
You always have to clean.
Yes, you always have to clean. And sometimes that's where the rebel comes in, because you're always like, why do I have to do this? Because yes, growing up, I was the one that would say that. My sister wasn't like that. I was going, we've been doing this thing since morning, and me, I'm tired, you know, and things like those. But even at those moments, like I said, I would go back to say, just embrace every opportunity to say, there's just something that God is producing out of your life, that God is just preparing you. So when it hurts, when you've actually been at that place, you're like, this thing, I'm tired. But just go back to that place and say, okay, God, help me. What do you want to teach me? What are you trying to train me for?
In this moment.
And even at this moment, you get to find out that it's all been a blessing. And it was maybe just the cover that God has just given you. And also the faith that, you know how the faith and the faith that our parents have actually instilled in us, that faith, that carry that faith and grow with that faith and learn from that faith to say, oh, okay. Because for me, I've seen my mom, there have been moments where she would say, I remember when I had just been selected to go to the university. And my mom was like, hey, praise God, let's pray. I didn't actually see the need for us to kneel down and pray. But then she's like, okay, let's kneel down and pray. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So that actually just showed me to say, this lady had faith to say, you don't have to say it's because you did well. We're expecting you to go to the university, you know, but it's because it's God.
It's God.
So, you know, this moment, just see the goodness of God. Even as you're going through hard moments, you also need to be praying for your parents. Because your parents also need your prayers.
That's so good.
Because you are the one that's around there. You're able to see what's going on in their lives even more than what other people can see. You are able to see their struggles. You're able to see their weaknesses. You can cover them in prayer. And you don't have to be the first one to say, this is what they do. No, cover them in prayer.
Cover them in prayer.
Yes. Okay. So I think I would say that.
Thank you so much, Vicky. This has been very enlightening and so good. I'm very, very hopeful. And I know that there's somebody out there who has benefited so much from this.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, as well as share with your friends.
Bye.